Begins at the age of 60. Medi 60 from Sri Lanka Insurance. Call 0112 357 357.
In a few moments, the news.
Sri Lanka Insurance, like a father, like a mother.
This is the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation.
Precisely 6:45. This is the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. News edited by Lal Malavarachi and read by Sharifa Tahir. Headlines. A supplementary estimate will be presented to Parliament for the provision of 695 billion rupees to maintain the essential public services without hindrance. Diesel and LP gas distribution begins again. Landslide warnings issued to several districts after heavy rains. A minor flood warning issued to the people living in low-lying areas near several rivers. Major General Vikum Liyanage will assume duties today as the new commander of Sri Lanka Army. The power cut duration has been reduced to a maximum of 2 hours. In foreign news, China eases COVID restrictions after 2 months. Sports. Australia cricket team will arrive in Sri Lanka today for a full cricket series. Local news in detail now. The Cabinet approval has been granted to submit a supplementary estimate to Parliament for the provision of 695 billion rupees under the Budget Assistance Services and Emergency Responsibilities project of the National Budget Department. The proposal of the supplementary estimate was made by Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe in his capacity as Minister of Finance, Economic Stabilisation and National Policies. The government has introduced an assistance package for some of the beneficiaries, estate communities, pensioners and government servants at the beginning of 2022 to reduce as much as possible the hardships faced by the public due to the adverse economic conditions. It has been decided to submit a supplementary estimate to Parliament to cover the cost and secure the necessary funds to maintain essential public services without hindrance. The unloading of a shipment of 40,000 metric tons of diesel supplied under the Indian assistance commenced yesterday. According to the Petroleum Corporation sources, the distribution of the shipment to the filling stations has already commenced. Meanwhile, the Litro Gas Company says that the unloading of a shipment of 3,950 metric tons of liquefied petroleum gas that arrived in the country on Monday commenced yesterday itself. Litro Gas has planned to distribute 50,000 gas cylinders countrywide on a daily basis from yesterday. Around 60% of the gas cylinders are distributed in Colombo and Gampa districts, aiming to end the LPG scarcity promptly. The National Building Research Organisation issued landslide warnings to Colombo, Kaluthara, Galle, Matara, Kagol, Ratnapura, Kandy and Nuwara districts following the heavy rains experienced in these districts throughout the day yesterday. The Disaster Management Centre has issued a minor flood warning to the people living in low-lying areas adjoining the Attanagaloya, Kalanikalu and Ging and Nilvala rivers. Meanwhile, Irrigation Department said the water levels of these rivers have gone up considerably after recent downpours in Sabaragamu and Western provinces and Galle and Matara districts. Meanwhile, Deputy Director of the Disaster Management Centre Pradeep Kodipilli said that there are flood risks at Galle, Nelluva and Kaluthara areas. He said that the armed forces and officials of disaster management centres are on standby in the event of any disasters. The Sri Lanka Navy has deployed 6 relief teams in several places in the Sabaragamu and southern provinces to provide relief to the people who live in vulnerable areas and are affected by flash floods. This is the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation giving you the news.
The medical insurance plan that begins at the age of 60. Medi 60 from Sri Lanka Insurance.
Continuing with more stories here at home, Major General Vikum Lienage has been appointed as the new commander of Sri Lanka Army by President Gotabaya Rajapaksa. Major General Lienage is the 24th commander of the Sri Lanka Army and he has received the letter of appointment from the President. He succeeds General Shavendra Silva, who served as the Commander of Army for nearly 3 years. He will assume duties today. Meanwhile, General Silva also received the letter of appointment as the new Chief of Defence Staff from the President. Both appointments will be effective from today. Sri Lanka will not send Hajj pilgrims this year because of the current financial crisis in the country. While thanking the Saudi Arabian government for offering a quota of 1,585 pilgrims for the forthcoming Hajj season in July this year, the Colombo-based All Ceylon Hajj Operators Association has written a letter to the Director of Muslim Religious and Cultural Affairs stating that going through the prevailing situation and the sufferings of the people in Sri Lanka, members of the association have decided to sacrifice this year's Hajj, which is the fifth fundamental right in Islam, and return the quota to Saudi Arabia as early as possible. That's local news for the moment.
The medical insurance plan that begins at the age of 60. Medi 60 from Sri Lanka Insurance. A health insurance plan to honor our most valued elders by the protectors of the nation. We now give our treasured senior citizens access to the very best medical insurance, specially tailored for anyone over 60. What's more, you don't need medical screening to access this policy. And Medi 60 covers a wide range of illnesses. Only from Sri Lanka Insurance. Call 0112 357 357.
The main news story is brought to you by Siddhalepa Vedamahatmya.
The government has decided to increase the value-added tax and the telecommunications levy as an immediate measure, the Prime Minister's office has announced. During the meeting of the Cabinet of Ministers held last week, the approval was given to amend several acts, including the Inland Revenue Act No. 24 of 2017, Value-Added Tax Act No. 14 of 2002, Telecommunications Levy Act No. 21 of 2011, Betting and Gaming Levy Act No. 40 of 1988, and the Fiscal Management Responsibility Act No. 3 of 2003, with a view to increasing government revenue. After the government introduced a relaxed tax policy in late 2019 to reduce the rates of VAT, personal income tax, corporate income tax, and to shrink the tax base on VAT and income tax, its revenue dropped by nearly 600 billion rupees to 800 billion rupees.
The main news story was brought to you by Siddhalepa Vedamahatmya.
And on Watchlight, Public Utilities Commission of Sri Lanka Chairman Janaka Ratnayaka said Sri Lanka has imposed a 2-hour power outage for today, with daily power cuts to be further reduced to 1 hour in the next few days. Today, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V and W areas will have power cuts of 2 hours and 10 minutes each from 12 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. The Colombo City area could face a power cut of 3 hours between 6 a.m. and 9 a.m. That's on Watchlight. Moving on to world news headlines. China eases COVID restrictions after 2 months. Australia Prime Minister Anthony Albanese secures majority government. Rainstorm claims 100 lives in northeast Brazil. Moving on to world news in detail. The Chinese city of Shanghai, the country's economic center and a global trade hub, has eased COVID curbs after a 2-month lockdown. At midnight yesterday, restrictions were relaxed to allow most people to move freely around the city of some 25 million people. But at least 650,000 residents will remain confined to their homes. China's overall policy of zero COVID remains in place, and people catching COVID face quarantine or hospital. Australia's new Labour government has secured a majority in Parliament, election analysts say. The centre-left party, led by Prime Minister Anthony Albanese, defeated Scott Morrison's Conservative coalition in an election on the 21st of May. A record vote for independents and minor parties had made it uncertain whether Mr Albanese would govern in his own right. But he now has the 76 lower house seats needed after victories in tight races. Finally, on world news, 100 people are now known to have died as torrential rain triggered landslides and torrents of mud near the city of Recife in northeast Brazil. Rescue workers continue the search for people still missing after poor neighborhoods and shanty towns were swept away in the region. President Jair Bolsonaro posted video on social media showing him in a helicopter flying over the area. He later said it had been too dangerous to land because of soil instability. That's world news. Moving on to development news. Sri Lanka Ports Authority Chairman Prasanta Jayamana said today that expressions of interest have been called from private investors to develop the Trincomalee port as an industrial port. There are 2,400 hectares of land in Trincomalee Port, and we have called for expressions of interest from the potential investors to develop it as an industrial port. We are mainly focusing on local investors, Jayamana told media. At the same time, Mr. Jayamana and heads of private terminals and a major stakeholder, Ceylon Association of Shipping Agents, claimed that Colombo Port is functioning smoothly despite the forex issue. That's on development news.
Sports news is brought to you by
Sampath Bank. We present your future.
And on sports news, Australia cricket team led by Aaron Finch will arrive in Sri Lanka today for a full cricket series. This is going to be very important for both sides to get more exposure before World T20 tournament and also the 2 tests in Galle, which are part of the ICC Test Championship. According to a senior official of the Sri Lanka cricket, after 6 years' time, Australians, the T20 champions and top test team of the world, is always a challenge for the Sri Lankan team, while next T20 World Cup will be held in November in Australia, and this is going to be a real test for Sri Lanka cricket team. Dimuth Karunaratne and Dasun Shanaka will lead the Sri Lanka test team and white ball team ODI and T20, while selectors have already picked national test ODI and T20 pools to focus on Australia's series.
Cash through NSP globally and win wonderful gifts locally. From October 1st, 2021 to December 31st, 2022. Remit a minimum of $100 or an equivalent amount in any foreign currency 3 times through NSB U Trust.
Business News, sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
And on business news, Sri Lanka's commercial banks quoted the rupee at 365.7 against telegraphic transfers yesterday, while the central bank kept the interbank spot trade at 360.7 under a daily guidance rate. Commercial banks were quoting 355.7, 365.7 for telegraphic transfer dollars yesterday, flat from the previous day. Some banks were also quoting the rupee at 365 for TT dollar yesterday.
Business News, sponsored by
Cash through NSP globally and win wonderful gifts locally. Will you be the lucky winner of the NSP Golden Jubilee? 50 gold sovereigns for the top prize winner of the NSP Golden Jubilee. Scooters for the 10 second prize winners. iPhones for the 10 third prize winners. Mountain bikes for the 29 fourth prize winners. From October 1st, 2021 to December 31st, 2022. Remit a minimum of $100 or an equivalent amount in any foreign currency 3 times through NSB U Trust.
Economic news, courtesy of...
Saving money isn't easy when you have responsibility. That's why we promise to give you the best returns and guarantee on your investment. LOLC Finance Fixed Deposits. Maximize your savings. LOLC Finance PLC, incorporated on the 13th of December 2001, is rated SLA stable by ICRA Lanka Limited and is licensed by the Monetary Board of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka under the Finance Business Act number 42 of 2011.
And on economic news, Sri Lanka has launched a special long-term residence visa program to attract foreign investors to the island. The launching ceremony of the Golden Paradise Visa Scheme, a long-term visa program for foreign investors to invest, live and study in Sri Lanka, was held under the aegis of Central Bank Governor Dr. Nandalal Veerasinghe and Defence Secretary General Kamal Gunaratne at the Department of Immigration and Emigration in Battaramulla recently. A website dedicated to the Golden Paradise Residence Visa program was also launched during the session. The program is a long-term resident visa program dedicated to investors to enjoy the benefit of the Paradise Island while contributing and reaping the benefits of the booming economy.
LOLC Finance is taking the power of innovation to the next level, winning 5 golds at the Technovation Awards 2022, leading the digital revolution with cutting-edge interbanking digital payments. LOLC Finance claims the overall gold award, whilst also claiming an extraordinary victory in digital banking. LOLC Finance will continue to innovate with the next generation digitalization of financial services, delivering a superior customer experience.
And on the weather update, Met Department says showers or thundershowers will occur at times in western Sabaragamuwa and northwestern provinces and in Kandy, Nuwara, Galle and Matara districts. Fairly heavy showers above 75 millimeters may occur at some places in Sabaragamuwa province and in Kalutara, Nuwara, Galle and Matara districts.